Actor James Cartwright has revealed what lies ahead for Theo Silverton, and the outlook is worrying for Todd Grimshaw and those close to him. The Coronation Street actor explained that Theo is extremely dangerous, as spoilers hint at his upcoming scheme in next week's episodes of the long-running ITV soap. It has been almost a year since Theo first arrived in Weatherfield, and in that short time, he has become entangled in a deeply troubling, coercive, and abusive relationship with Todd Grimshaw, who has been portrayed by Gareth Pierce since 2020. Their first meeting happened by chance on the cobbles while Theo was working locally as a scaffolder, and there was an immediate attraction between them. However, as time passed, Theo's darker side began to emerge, leaving Todd increasingly unable to cope with a toxic dynamic between them. Viewers will remember that Todd eventually made the decision to walk away from Theo after Billy Mayhew uncovered the full truth about the abuse his friend and former partner had been enduring. Billy attempted to help Todd escape, but his efforts fell apart when Theo unexpectedly showed up as they were about to travel back to Weatherfield from the wedding of Debbie Webster and Ronnie Bailey in Yorkshire, creating a tense and awkward atmosphere on the minibus. As fans saw, the minibus was later caught in a devastating multi-vehicle crash that formed part of the dramatic crossover between Coronation Street and Airedale, known as Corrie. Although many passengers managed to get out safely, Billy became trapped after snorts, his seatbelt jammed. Even though it initially appeared that Billy had managed to free himself, Theo returned to check the vehicle and seemingly fasten him back into his seat while Billy recited his last rites, abandoning him as the minibus burst into flames. Despite showing signs of guilt over Billy's death, Theo has continued to mistreat Todd, manipulating him into feeling responsible for the tragedy. He has also escalated his controlling behavior by financially restricting Todd, destroying his bank cards, and only allowing him small amounts of money in order to tighten his grip even further. Spoilers for next week's show that when Todd and Summer Spellman sing Happy Birthday to Theo Silverton, he opens his gifts, but looks distinctly unimpressed. Later at the bistro, Theo invites Gary and Maria Windendas to join him for a birthday meal since Todd is delayed at work. And when Todd finally hurries in, Theo glares at him angrily. Once the meal is finished, Theo pushes the bill towards Todd and insists they cover Gary and Maria's lunch too, leaving Todd awkwardly admitting to Nick Tilsley that he only has 80 available. Back at the flat, Theo blames Todd for spoiling his birthday and demands that he fetch a bottle of wine. When Todd proposes having coffee instead, Theo completely loses his temper. Discussing the violent scenes, James Cartwright explained that, like all abuse, it becomes normalized over time. He said that when aggression is not confronted, it grows worse and develops a momentum of its own. James described violence as something terrible in any situation and especially unimaginable within a relationship. He added that Theo uses it as yet another method to maintain control, punishing Todd whenever he fails to obey him. According to James, the situation is disturbing, and the more Todd resists, the more determined Theo becomes to crush that defiance through physical dominance. He pointed out the clear size difference between the two men, noting that Theo's larger, muscular build as a scaffolder allows him to intimidate Todd physically. James said Theo is now deliberately exploiting that physical advantage to ensure he always gets his way. The next morning, Todd clears up the smashed crockery from the previous night's argument and informs George Shuttleworth that he will not be coming into work. Elsewhere, Gary notices Theo waking up in his van, and Theo claims that he and Todd rode because Todd was anxious about finances. Back at the apartment, Todd attempts to prepare some soup, but when the blender refuses to cooperate, he angrily throws it across the room. Shortly afterwards, Gary arrives to collect some clothes for Theo and takes in the chaotic state of the flat. Distressed, Todd confides in Gary that he wants to repair things with Theo. Later, after Gary contacts him, Theo returns to the flat for a conversation. As the week continues, Todd remains on edge at home, fearful that Theo might reappear at any moment. Meanwhile, at the Undertaker's, George becomes unsettled when yet another funeral booking is cancelled. At the Rover's return, George, Christina Boyd, Sarah Platt, and James Bailey gather around Todd to lift his spirits. But when Todd catches sight of Theo, he becomes overwhelmed and walks out. Theo follows him outside, saying they need to talk. And later, as James helps an intoxicated Todd home, Theo watches quietly from the darkness. The situation escalates further when Theo overhears Summer telling George that James spent the night sleeping on the sofa. At speed dial, Theo notices Adam Barlow meeting with a client, and Gary explains that the woman is Annie, who has accused George of fraud. Sensing an opportunity, Theo approaches her with a new scheme in mind. Explaining Theo's motives, James said that Theo wants to cut Todd off from anyone who might influence him. He noted that George is Todd's strongest supporter, making him the last obstacle in Theo's way. James said Theo views the chance to remove George from Todd's life as too tempting to ignore, believing that with some calculated manipulation, he can succeed. In Theo's mind, pushing George aside would mean he and Todd could be together without interference. When Theo sees Annie accusing George, he fabricates a story claiming that George mishandled his ex-wife's mother's funeral and tried to cheat the family, even though it is entirely untrue. James stressed that Theo invents this lie because he believes eliminating George is necessary to secure his relationship with Todd. When asked what audiences can expect in the weeks ahead, James hinted that Theo will behave in both predictable and surprising ways. He described Theo as highly unpredictable, which is precisely what makes him such a dangerous yet compelling character to watch, as viewers can never be certain what he will do next. Fans of Coronation Street have been left astonished after learning Bernie Winter actress Jane Hazelgrove's real age. Jane Hazelgrove has portrayed Bernie Winter since 2019, and viewers were surprised to discover how close her real age is to that of her on-screen character. The actress has become a popular presence on the long-running ITV soap, but many were curious about how old she actually is in real life. Bernie made her debut in Weatherfield in 2019 as the estranged mother of Gemma and Paul. During her time on the Cobb, she has been central to several major plots, including marrying Dev Allahan and coping with Paul's tragic death in 2024 after his battle with motor neuron disease. At the start of this year, Bernie endured further heartbreak when her son-in-law Billy Mayhew was killed during the dramatic Corrie crossover episode. Viewers will recall that Billy lost his life after becoming trapped in a devastating multi-vehicle crash. In the aftermath of his death, Bernie struggled deeply with her grief and began spiraling, taking drugs with a man named Mal and sharing a kiss with him in his hotel room. However, Mal soon became disturbingly fixated on Bernie and harassed her persistently for weeks, according to the Daily Star. After Bernie confided in Kit Green, played by Jacob Roberts, Kit attacked Mal and left him hospitalized. Although Bernie was first arrested in connection with the assault, she was later released without charge. Amid all the intense drama in Weatherfield, attention has now turned to comparing Bernie's fictional age with Jane's real one. The character of Bernie was born on the 18th of August, 1969, meaning she is 56 years old. In reality, Jane was born on the 17th of July, 1968, and will turn 58 later this year. When her 57th birthday was celebrated in a Coronation Street Facebook group last year, one fan posted warm wishes, hoping she would enjoy a wonderful day. The revelation sparked a wave of admiration from fans, many of whom agreed that Jane looks far younger than her actual age. One supporter insisted they could hardly believe it, saying, "She certainly doesn't look that age." Another admitted they had been equally shocked by the discovery. A different fan praised her acting talent while also complimenting her youthful appearance. Away from the ITV soap, Jane shares a long and happy marriage with fellow actress Isabel Middleton. The couple married in 2015 and have been together for more than 28 years. Isabel has also built an impressive television career and has appeared in Emmerdale on several occasions. Over the years, she has played Dr. Lane in 2014, a barrister during Simon McManus's trial in 2018, and Jean Rawson in 2020. Coronation Street is broadcast on ITV1 on weeknights at 8:30 p.m. and is also available for streaming on IDVX.